DIY projects. I love that Dungeons & Dragons is such a creative game. Not only do I get to create all kinds of characters, adventures, and settings, but I also get to use my creative crafting skills as well. Being one of the gaming masses that has to plan a tight budget, I have become a student of the why buy it when I can make it school of thought. Crafting allows you to make your own personalized gaming accessories as well as props to use in your games. Some players even turn their crafting skills into a way to help support their gaming budget by selling their crafts at large gaming conventions or online. Such products could include costumes, jewelry, portraits, plush animal companions, and even armor. After all, just because one person can do something doesn't mean everyone can. That is why I've included a few different projects. These DIY crafts are all simple and basic level skills. Also, each project uses a different set of crafting skills. You should have no problem finding someone in your group that is able to do one or more of these projects. Dice bags. Dice bags are the gateway sewing craft. The reason being that they teach you the basics of sewing, and once you make one, you're going to end up making more. Either you're going to find a print of fabric you like more, or one of your fellow players is going to ask you to make one for them. Another reason could be that you wish to make an even bigger bag. To teach you, we are just going to start out with a small pouch. To change the size of the resulting dice bag, you just need to use a larger or smaller piece of fabric. You will need the following supplies: one sewing needle, one 5x10 strip of fabric, one spool of thread, 2 unsharpened pencils, 20 inches of yarn, 6 sewing pins. 6 sewing pins. Normally, you will want to use complementary colors for the bag and thread so you can hide your stitches. To create the tubes where the laces that will make the drawstrings of the pouch, you need to take the narrow end of the fabric and wrap it around one of the pencils. Leave enough overhang so that you can use 2 pins to hold the fabric in place. If you are using a fabric with a print on it, make sure that the darker side is the one on that you can see around the pencil and the cut edge incurved around to the lighter side of the fabric. Once you have the pins holding one of the ends around the pencil, you will begin to sew the fabric together. Don't remove the pencil. This will help you keep a straight line. Once you have finished one end, it's time to repeat with the other. Fold the ends together so that you can line up the edges. If your fabric has a lighter side, make sure that it is facing out. If you are worried that you might end up sewing the tubes, then feel free to leave the pencils in them. Sew up the sides, making sure to stay close to the edge, and keep your stitches nice and tight together. Make sure to start from the ends next to the tubes so that you create nice even sides to the pouch. No one wants to have to restart their projects because it came out looking odd. Once both sides are closed, then you can remove the pencils. Even if you are using a plain colored fabric, you will want to turn it inside out so that you hide the knots from where you tied off the threads. Loop a piece of string over the end of one of the pencils and then insert it into one of the tubes. Pull one of the pieces of yarn so that the ends hang out of the tube. Repeat with the other piece of yarn. Next, you are going to reinsert the hook into one tube and hook the yarn from the other tube. Then pull that yarn through so that it runs through each tube, making a pair of U's. Now, tie the open ends of the drawstrings back together and the bag is finished. Game tokens. Either because you can't find the miniatures you need or because no one makes the ones you want, at times you are going to need to make some markers to use during your games. Basically, these are just reusable cardboard tokens that you use on a game mat to keep track of what is going on during a battle. With these, you can go cheap and just write the names of the creature, characters, or items on the cutouts, or you can show off your artistic side with them. If you're going to get creative and do some artwork, you'll want to keep them in labeled envelopes so you can save the markers. Depending on what you are trying to represent with the tokens, you will want different sizes and shapes. Rounded shapes are best for doorways and living creatures. Blocked shapes work better for chests, pits, tables, and other inanimate objects. No matter which one you choose, you should remember the basic gaming mat scale. In Dungeons & Dragons, one 1-inch by 1-inch square on the mat is equal to a 5-foot by 5-foot square space in the game. You will need a compass, a pencil, ruler, index cards or heavy paper, scissors, light blue colored pencil, liner pens, markers, or colored pencils. These are very simple to make. Just use the ruler to measure and cut different sized rectangles and squares. Here are some common objects and the different sizes of tokens you should have on hand for them. Chairs and chest, 1/2 inch by 1 inch. Table, 1 inch by 1 inch. Coffin, sleeping cot, and long table, 1 inch by 2 inches. Bed, large table, and small tent, 2 by 2 inches. For making the round tokens you will need for characters and monsters, you'll need a compass. The first step is to prep the compass with a standard pencil. Then you are going to want to adjust the compass so that the sharp pointer and the lead of the pencil are at half the distance of the overall diameter you want for the circles. Once you have the compass set to a measurement, you just need to make some circles. It's best to do a lot of these with the compass set at ½ inch to make a good sized pile of 1-inch tokens, because that is the standard character and monster size. Also, you will need about half as many made with a 1/4 inch scaled compass to make small sized ½ inch tokens. You should then set the compass to 1 inch to make some large 2-inch tokens. Now you just need to cut out the tokens and label them with names. Scrolls. From letters from high-ranking nobles to treasure maps, the characters will end up handling a lot of rolled-up papers. This makes the scroll one of the most used and easy to make props for an adventure. The fun part is that a scroll can be as creative as you want. For this tutorial, we are going to make an aged treasure map that has been around the realm a few times. You will need drawing paper, pencil, ruler, brush pen, cookie sheet, cup of strong coffee, lighter, candle, toothbrush, glass of grape juice or soda. The first step to creating an old scroll is to age it. Now, unless you have a time machine, you are going to have to artificially age it. To do this, you are going to soak the paper in strong coffee to give the paper an aged brown look. Just place the paper on a cookie sheet and add enough of the strong coffee to wet all the paper. Allow the paper to sit in the coffee for a few minutes. Pour off the extra water before you dry the paper. All you need to do is just hang it up and allow it to dry completely. I hung mine next to the space heater in order to dry it faster for the photo shoot. Once the paper is completely dry, you can start drawing the rough draft of the map with a pencil. Also, you're going to want to use the ruler to make guidelines for the areas where you are going to put words for names and directions. Once the treasure map is finished, you can take the pen and start going over your pencil sketch. Okay, this is where the ink and brush pen come into play. In the digital age where you can just set a font and type, the art of calligraphy is starting to die out. This is sad because it's a great skill to have for making maps and official letter props for your adventures. To give the map some more aging, you are going to dirty it up with some wine stains. This makes it look like it has been talked about around a table by a party of past adventurers. By dipping a toothbrush in a glass of grape juice, you can flick the brush so that it displays flicks of wine on the paper. If you then dump out the grape juice from the glass, and then set the glass upside down on the paper, you make a ring of an overflowed glass. Again, allow these to dry before you move on to the next step. Adding some burning to the edges of a scroll gives it some character. Was this map almost destroyed at one point? Did a character bluff destroying it at one point to escape a villain? Now remember, you only want to lightly burn the edges, so keep that cup of coffee handy so you can dip the paper in it to put out the flame. Also, do this outside in an area clear of flammable materials. If you are a miner, have an adult handle this step for you. Just light the candle and tab the edge of the paper to the flame to make the burn marks. With your candle still lit, you are going to roll up the scroll and dip wax from the candle onto the scroll to seal it closed. The seal should be about the size of a quarter or another large coin. Before the wax hardens, you can press an object such as a coin or the edge of a ring to make the seal look more official. Once this is done, you have a finished scroll ready to hand over to your players at your next game night.